The life and legacy of legendary journalist Robin Miller. Thanks for joining us tonight here on Facebook Live from the comfy confines of the Channel 13 studios. Good to be with you on this Wednesday night. I'm Scott. We'll be chatting with Angela. We'll find out about the storms, how much rain we got today. Boy, we had some damage around town. A lot of Hoosiers without electricity. We'll talk to her about what's coming up tomorrow. And our big story tonight as we look ahead, the COVID story tonight that we're taking a look at, the pressure and the challenges that parents are facing as lots of school districts decided to go back to e-learning today on a temporary business. I mean, imagine your kid has to come back home and do e-learning for a while. You've got a job. How are you going to handle that? We're going to talk with a friend of the show, Logan Gay, about her story that you're going to see coming up tonight on 13 News at 11. But let's begin with the weather story today because, Angela, boy, we got some storms today.
We did.
We needed the rain. Many areas got rain, and we're not done with the rain, right?
We're not done. National Weather Service tweeted out how much rain they got. It was like 1.25 inches in less than 50 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And our Lindsay Monroe was like, yeah, we need the rain, just not all at 50, not all in 50 minutes when it causes trouble on the roads. And
we saw that.
Schools in the Avon area with a pipe that failed and some running water. So yes, it just came down really fast, too fast, but we needed the rain. Ended up with 1.33 inches officially at the airport in Indianapolis. And we are tracking more storms. Live Doppler 13 radar is going to show a quiet central Indiana, but our eyes are on what's developing in the northwestern part of the state and across parts of Illinois. So we'll see how this holds together over the next several hours because it's also kind of diving to the south and east. Latest analysis doesn't really have much of this holding together, but again, like we saw today, it doesn't take much. If we get a boundary left over, the sun comes up and those storms get going. So that would be a concern for the early half of tomorrow as well. This is the latest timeline with Future Track 13 showing those storms crossing the state line, around midnight or so, and then starting to fall apart. But then as the sun comes up, maybe get going again. So grab the umbrellas tomorrow. Be prepared for the heat. We would call today's temperature forecast a big bust because we had mid-90s in the forecast, but the rain and storms held together and kept us in the upper 70s and low 80s. But on the other hand, where we didn't have the morning storms, they were back close to 90 in Lafayette. So it's just all going to depend on these very difficult to time complexes of thunderstorms, very typical for summertime.
And we're feeling for those college kids that, like your son, are in a place without air conditioning on a day like today.
Yes, without air conditioning. Oh, and speaking of no air conditioning, one of the best stories today was from Jenny. And the little girl on the bus in Hamilton Southeastern School District, am I right?
That's right.
That didn't have air conditioning, and she used her voice and now has air conditioning. But yes, thinking for everyone that doesn't have AC, it was nice to not be sweating today.
Right.
But anytime that we don't have storms the next 4 or 5 days, we're going to be back into the 90s.
Okay, back to hot and humid conditions. Let's check in with some of our Facebook viewers. Several hundred of you with us tonight on this Wednesday. Rosie saying, hi, Scott and Angela. Got nothing here at my house in Muncie today. Yeah,
it was weird. It was kind of, and I'll probably show it at 11. It was developed kind of near Kokomo and Tipton and then slid southeast, so I can see where Delaware County kind of missed out on it.
Okay. Wes joining us tonight. Liz joining us. Melanie says, Angela, you look pretty in red tonight.
Oh, thank you.
So there you go. Joyce joining us from Versailles. Sharon from Logansport. Josephine saying good evening, Scott and Angela. Randy's with us. Diane is with us. So thank you again for everybody. And Tommy Ice.
Tommy Ice is back in the house.
Back on Facebook Live.
Best Facebook friend
One of the best names we've got here on Facebook. We'll get back with Angela, find out a little bit more about tomorrow's weather coming up in a moment. But let's turn our attention to our big story of the evening, this COVID story that has lots of parents looking at their options right now because they're now discovering that their schools and their districts are sending the kids back home, at least temporarily, for e-learning because of various COVID concerns. And so the parents are now left scrambling. So let's bring Logan Gay in tonight. Logan's been talking with parents. And tell us a little bit about your story, Logan.
Yes, Scott. Well, everything you said is true. I spoke with a parent of a fifth grader, and she told me that when she first heard that her son and his classmates would be going back to virtual learning, she was worried because she just started a new job. And although it is remote, she didn't know how she was going to balance that job and make sure her son was taking care of his schoolwork. So she was even considering taking time off, which is something I think a lot of parents can relate to. Although she says today went good, she is still worried about the future. And so at 11, I will be talking about what she thinks should be done to keep students in the classrooms.
Okay, we definitely look forward to watching your story, because I know that this is going to resonate with a lot of parents who are in this same kind of situation. You know, they made plans for their kids to go back to school, and now their son or daughter is now back home doing the temporary e-learning thing. What do they do? How do they make it work? So this is a story that's definitely going to resonate with lots of parents. So Logan, thanks so much. We know you're still editing and writing. We'll see you tonight at 11, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, there's Logan, part of our big story coverage coming up tonight on 13 News. Also coming up tonight at 13 News at 11 o'clock, we're going to take a look at what other school districts are doing. Hundreds of kids having to do the in-person virtual thing beginning today. So we're going to run down some of the lists of different schools, tell you what they're doing. And then we're also going to crunch the numbers and show you how kids in the 12 to 15 age group, in terms of how many of those kids are vaccinated here in Indiana compared to the rest of the country. All that coming up as part of our big story on COVID tonight on 13 News at 11. All right, let's get back to Angela now. And, you know, we've lost now two giants in racing.
Yes.
Bob Jenkins, we lost a couple of weeks ago. And then today, news of Robin Miller's death.
Yeah, 71, had cancer. I was at an event once that he was part of.
Right.
Funny.
Great storyteller, my goodness.
Oh my gosh, just captivating. He'll be missed.
Yeah, went to Ball State, famously said he was a dropout at Ball State, landed a reporting job with the Indianapolis Star, worked here at Channel 13 with Dave Calabro for a number of years, and then went on to have this spectacular career writing, and, you know, was very honest, very critical of drivers and Tony George and the IRL and IndyCar, but really always told it the way it was. And Dave Calabro knew Robin as well as anybody. And so tonight I talked to Dave and found out a few stories about Robin Miller.
Man, I tell you what, we lost a great human being today, Scott. Robin Miller had this incredible personality. You know, it didn't matter if the president of the United States walked in the room or Joe Schmo, Mary Beer Can, the race car fan. He treated everybody the same way. And Robin was always, he always cared about you. I was telling my wife, every time I saw Robin, he would immediately, didn't care. I don't care what event was going on. Hey, how's Lisa doing? What's Drew and Alex doing? He barely knew my family, but he acted like he knew them each and every way. And that's how he was with everybody he met. He just had that one-of-a-kind personality. And he had this passion for the Indy 500 that started at Southport High School, and he turned it into, as he told me, he goes, I'm still fooling him after all. 50 years he got to play journalist, race car driver wannabe, and he just was just a great personality, Scott. His favorite hangout was the working man's friend. He would take a greasy cheeseburger over any fancy meal ever. Back in the 90s, we started this show called The Sports Jam. And there was one guy in town who could really draw an audience, and that was Robin Miller, because he was such a talented writer at the Indianapolis Star, polarizing at times. But Robin always said what was on his mind. I mean, he was honest, and he would look a driver straight in the eye and tell him, hey, you know, this is the facts. You know, you can try to spin the facts. And so I was always in the middle of some interesting conversation with Robin, whether it was Bobby Knight, who he would be standing up to and, you know, correcting Bobby on something that he had spun into his own way of thinking. Robin was a factual-based journalist. He was one of a kind, and we had a lot of fun together through the years. And cancer sucks. We've lost another great human being to cancer. So I think that would be my message to people tonight, is if you can get involved somehow to donate to cancer research, whatever form that looks like, get involved. I was just with Jared Andretti, John Andretti's son, who's carrying on the tradition of the Andretti Racing for Riley event, 25 years in running. So, you know, whatever your sphere of influence is, try to use that to help other people out. And that's how Robin was. Yeah, that's the kind of guy he was.
He had a pretty interesting and colorful relationship with lots of the IndyCar drivers, didn't he?
Oh, I don't even know where to start with all of that. You never knew what the guys were going to say. I remember one time he got into it with A.J. Foyt. They went behind the wall and had a man-to-man discussion, like in your face, this kind of conversation. And then 2 hours later, they were slapping each other in the back and high-fiving. So, yeah, Robin always told these guys to their face what he thought. And, you know, sometimes it didn't go so well. But that's what I liked about the guy. He was honest to you to your face.
And I remember during the split, you know, he had a lot of pretty frank, candid comments about Tony George and, you know, the IRL at that time, didn't he?
Yeah, he went after Tony George quite heavily in the Indy Racing League and how he thought that was going to be a detriment. And you know what? Down the road, he was absolutely right. But he was one of the few guys who stood up and said, I don't think this is going to work. And he stuck his guns on that. And it cost him lots and lots of money because he took that stance. But, you know, again, that was Robin. The other thing about Robin, I just thought about this, he always had Long's Donuts with him. I don't care what time of day it was. He would have a fresh dozen Long's Donuts. And he always had bubble gum with it. So that was Robin Miller in a nutshell. That's the kind of guy he was.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, our thanks to Dave Calabro, really shedding that personal light on Robin Miller, who was really a legend in the business. And tonight, Angela, we're hearing from so many drivers and owners. Michael Andretti saying, so sad of hearing the passing of Robin Miller. We've lost one of the great characters of auto racing. Prayers to his family. We heard Doug Bowles, president of, you know, the IndyCar in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tough few weeks around IMS. Nobody cared more about telling the stories and creating fans of our sport than Robin Miller. A couple of others that I just wanted to mention to you as I go through, as I try to, there's so many of them.
His column was a must read.
Oh, it was? Every time he
wrote anything, it was a must read.
Yeah, Alexander Rossi, his wit and insight will be sorely missed. Tony Kanaan, you'll be missed, kid. A couple of others, just as I'm looking, Joseph Newgarden. I learned more about the history of IndyCar from Robin Miller than anyone else. Just maybe one or two others. Mario Andretti, farewell, my friend. When goodbye is too hard to say, a hug will tell them what they need to know. Rest in peace. Tony Stewart, Robin Miller was no BS guy who called it as he saw it from Tony Stewart Smoke. So anyway.
They may not have liked what he said on occasion, but I have a feeling they appreciated his honesty.
Yeah, and he was definitely colorful. He did not hold back, told it the way it is. So a couple of Facebook comments tonight. Teresa's watching. Zach is with us. Tanya, Charlene, Indianapolis needs to go virtual, referring to our big story tonight.
Yeah, and there was another mom, I think a couple comments ahead of that. Yes, kids are back home. And it's tough. It's tough for parents to, you know, last year you prepared for a semester at home, and now, you know, a couple weeks at a time home for quarantine. How many couple weeks at a time is it going to be over the year?
How do you plan your schedule?
Right. And you could be, you know, back at school a day and be back in quarantine the next.
Exactly.
It's really tough.
Brittany Lee may be the one that you're referring to. I'm a parent of a third grader, and I tell you, I feel for every parent and kids in school right now, it's definitely difficult in every aspect.
Yeah.
So that's a tough thing. All right, so as we look forward to the news coming up at 11 o'clock, what's our weather tomorrow?
We're going to be tracking some storms. We'll see how this holds together. It's across northeastern Illinois now. Doesn't quite look as intense as what we had last night, but it doesn't take much. Even if that falls apart, that boundaries left behind could trigger a few more towards sunrise. So grab the umbrella, grab the weather app, and if you don't have storms or clouds, be prepared to be sweating 90 to 95. And that's how the rest of the week and even the weekend are going to go.
Yeah, you're going to need to find a pool this weekend.
Yeah, find a friend with a pool.
That's right. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Angela will be back with her 7-day forecast. That way you can be weather aware, look ahead to tomorrow, be able to make your outdoor plans when we see you tonight at 11 o'clock. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook Live.